Welcome to another episode of Masterminds with James Allen. He is I and I am him. Man, today we got my guy, Houston. If you've been down Westheimer, you've seen this man's face. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to be humble when you stunting on a Jumbotron out here. My guy, man, good dude. I've told this person maybe, a couple of times now that because, we've only known each other for, a short period of time, but it feels like I've known this guy for a long time. He feels like a brother. Man, he's just a solid person through and through. What can I say about this person, man? A great person. His story is fascinating, and I want to get into that. And I definitely want to talk about that while we're here. But beyond, his story and his journey of how he's, navigated his entrepreneurship journey is fascinating. But just what he does on a day-to-day basis. Me personally, I'm not just a friend. I am a client of his, and man, I'm just honored that he took time out of his busy schedule to be here. So let me just start off. I mean, this guy is, originally from Austin, but, grew up in Houston, claims Houstonian through and through, literally from crossing over on the court to, corner offices. I mean, essentially, and his story is really impressive. If you guys are looking at the visual, you probably know who this is already, but for the ones listening on just the audio, let me just talk a little bit more about this person. He is, runs and owns the State Farm Phillips agency, Jermaine Phillips agency here in Houston, helping and providing services to people throughout Houston, and just really investing and genuinely cares about helping people and the sense of community. This guy is, part of the Chairman Circle, Ambassador Club, and SVP. I mean, he is literally in the top 5% of agents nationwide. So this, he could talk that talk. He might not. He's a humble guy, but I mean, hell, I talk it for him. And so, he, like I said, he played ball at St. Edwards, and then did a stint in professionally, and I definitely want to talk about that story, and to building, like I said, this State Farm office to what it is. I believe it's Jermaine, we've been talking about 12, 13 years now.
14 years.
14, man, excuse me, talk that and let them know. So yeah, man, I'm just honored. Besides all those accolades, I mean, and I don't want to speak for him, but I could, probably say what's most important. This gentleman is, just a man of faith, a husband, a son, a father, just all around solid dude. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the Masterminds podcast, Jermaine Phillips. What up, family? How you doing, man?
What's going on, James? First and foremost, well, number one, glory to God. Number two, appreciate you for having me on. Okay, the mastermind. This is a mastermind, but you the mastermind. So,
I mean, I appreciate it, bro. I appreciate it. This has been a while in the making. We've been trying to figure out with both of our schedules how to navigate this and how to get us here. Beyond that, he's a true supporter of the Masterminds platform and what we've got going on in this movement. I mean, he was an official sponsor of our dinner. And so, man, I just want to say thank you, brother. You are a solid person, and I'm glad to have you here.
Oh, yeah, no problem. You're doing big things, man. And I just want to congratulate you with all the things that you're doing with this. I mean, I believe in givers gain, and you're getting all these entrepreneurs on this platform to be able to, just tell their story. And so for that alone, man, I hope you, for everything that you touch is gold, man, for just doing this, man. So keep it up.
I love it, man. And let's talk about that real quick. I mean, because I want to get into some of the origins, but like I said, in the short period I've known you, I'll always hear that from you. Givers gain. Like, what does that mean to you, man? Where did that come from?
Well, for one, it's biblical for one, right?
Okay.
But number two is, if you want to receive something, you got to give it, right?
Yes, sir.
If you want money, you got to give money. If you want love, you got to give love, right? If you want a good attitude, you got to give a good attitude. So in that regards, I know for me, and that's why I always try to help as many people as I can, because I know that'll come back around. So again, you're giving in this thing. I mean, this is not about you and your podcast. I mean, you're giving business owners the opportunity to be able to have a platform, to be able to, for one, tell other people about their business, right? Yeah. But two, I mean, obviously, Mastermind may blow up, and hey, this may be the thing that blows their business up.
Yeah, so, no doubt. No doubt. And then some of the other ones, that I've heard you say is win or learn. What is that? What does that mean to you?
And there's a life lesson in everything that we do, right? Another one I think I have a whole bunch of parables. I felt like I have, but people see the now, but they don't see the how, right? And in that whole process, you're going to win or learn. So even if you lose, I mean, you probably interviewed all business owners, probably 10 or 15. I'm not sure how many you have, but I'm sure all of them had struggles. I mean, no one had perfect years. And so you're either going to win or you're going to learn. Okay. There's no really losing in that, because, it's valuable. Anything is going to be valuable, even if you lose. So that's
right. Right. And to me, you only lose if you quit.
Exactly.
Right. And if you walk away, and then from like you're right. This is episode 20.
Oh, wow.
And so with that being said, it's funny that every single entrepreneur I've talked to has had the back kicked in. Every single one of them. It's like, if you're in business, you're going to take some lessons. Let's call them, so the other L. So you're going to take some lessons. And so you're right. You're going to learn. And the only time you lose is when you hang it up and walk away. So
exactly.
Ooh, we getting to it already. We talking that talk. I like it, brother. I like it, man. But
sure.
But let me back up, bro. Man, Jermaine, it's just natural when you have a conversations with people. You are just like, again, it's natural because you're always like, James, what's going on with you, man? What's going on with this? But bro, how are you, man? What's going on with Jermaine? And I mean,
I'm good. I'm busy, but I'm good. I mean, especially entrepreneurs, we got to stay busy. And so I'm always just trying to evolve. We've, and thank you for the introduction. I don't know, you went to what, Hype Man University? Because I mean, you had a PhD in it. I don't know what it is, but
hey.
but yeah, we've had some good years, but I try not to stay complacent. There's some things that obviously we got to continue to grow. And so last year, I mean, we had a record-breaking year, and then this year we're on pace to even break that. And so it's been busy. And so with the balance of obviously, the business and obviously 2 kids and wife and all this kind of stuff, I love it though. Yeah. I mean, it's just it's not the destination, it's a journey type of deal.
Man, so
right?
True.
Right.
That's so true, bro. Like, and that's another thing. Through all these conversations, it's like, as entrepreneurs, what's in us is like that destination. If there is a destination, it's going to continuously move, right? So it's like, all right. I mean, for most people, just not entrepreneurs, it's like, that's why I never want to put it like, okay, when I get this, it's, I'm putting all my eggs on if I get to this, pinnacle or whatever like that, because it's always going to continuously change, because once we get there, we're going to, all right, put our eyes on the next prize. I mean, that's just kind of how we are. That's in our DNA. But with that being said, it's, in the last podcast, she said this, so elegantly. It's like, life is short. So if you're just focused on that, really focus on the journey and understand the beauty of the journey, and be grateful for the struggle. And that's what I'm continuously telling myself right now. And we can talk about that later, but but it's just like, with all these things, man, like you're right, bro, just in enjoying the journey and really being grateful for all those lessons, man. And that's why I really appreciate talking to positive, strong-minded people like yourself, because it actually recalibrates that and reminds me of those things. So no, shout out there, bro. Quickly though, because like I said, now we see Jermaine, we see the suit, fresh to death, the office, I mean, the team, the billboards, but I mean, how did we get to Jermaine Phillips agency from, playing ball collegiate at the collegiate level to, playing ball professionally? How did we get there? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I'm glad we both sitting down, both got some time, right? But man, yeah, I mean, the journey began. I mean, for one, I didn't go to school for business, man. I didn't know anything about business. My parents, didn't have a business, never owned a business. I don't want to make it always seem like it's rags to riches type of deal, but my father, third ward, we lived there when I was younger, and then we moved, to the north side, like Cypress area, South Fair area, to get a better education and all that kind of stuff, right? I thought basketball was going to be like the ticket, right? Like that was it. I had no plan B. That was like the thing, right? So high school, excelled, played sports, did well, got a scholarship, played ball, in college, everything went well there. And then the summer, like when I was done, I went to a combine. It's a pro combine in Tampa,
Oh,
Florida.
dope. Uh-huh.
Went out there, balled out. I did my thing, and then a sport agent. I was unrepresented at the time. A sport agent came to me was like, "Hey, man, like, be interested in playing overseas?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I'm here." And so 2 weeks later, next thing I know, I'm on an airplane. I'm looking out the window like, "Oh, is it?"
It's real, yeah.
So I touched down. We had a rookie draft camp in the Philippines. Did my thing there. Got drafted late first round there. Everything was cool, man. Like, I mean, over there, the price of living is super cheap.
Super
So
true. Yeah.
maid, driver, cook, condo, I mean, the whole 9 yards, I mean, for on the
Ooh.
boat, right? And so everything was good until I almost died. Like, almost died over there in a third world country, man. So I remember this, man. Like, so I went to team practice one morning and I fainted. We went to team practice, and I never fainted in my life, right?
Right.
My sport agent was still there. He's actually with me at the time. He's like, "Hey Jay, what's going on, man?" He said, "Yeah, you good?" I was like, "Man, you know, I don't know what's going on, but something ain't right." He's like, "Oh, you just trying to get acclimated to the new country." I'm like, "Man, we've been here for quite some time already, man. Like, no, like something's wrong, right?" So then after that, a couple of days, I started sleeping like 18, 19 hours a day, like just really tired, fatigued. And they said, "Yeah, we got to go to the hospital," right? So they ran some tests and they found out I had dengue fever.
Oh man.
So it's like a flu in a third world country. And so it comes from mosquitoes and stuff like that, right? And it was so bad that I almost had to get a blood transfusion. Like the
Oh.
doctor said, like, "Hey, look, if you don't get a blood transfusion, you're gonna die." I mean, that was the whole thing. And I really, it didn't really register because I was like, they had me on all these type of meds and all this kind of stuff. But I knew it was serious because my dad was going to fly all the way, overseas, because they were all worried. I was like, okay, what's going on? James, I kid you not. I remember laying in the hospital bed, man, hearing the roaches on the walls just tattering all around me. Like, I was like, "God, please get me out of here, man." Like, ball is life, but no, it ain't that type of life, right?
Right,
I said,
right.
"God, just get me home. Just get me home." And they're still scheduled to do the blood transfusion, the whole 9 yards. I mean, literally on my deathbed, right? And then just a few days later, really, like my body started recovering. Where they checked the numbers again, and they said, "Hey, no blood transfusions needed." Like his body's starting to heal, respond, and like so, it was good. So I remember the moment I was cleared to fly, I was gone,
And
like
out of there.
gone. First flight, and it was a long flight, and I was in the middle seat. That's the only seat I can get for 18 hours. I don't care. Give me that seat. I remember James, man. I remember flying into Detroit of all places. That's when I came in. I wanted to kiss Detroit's pavement, man. I was so happy to be home. And then as I got home, like everything was good, and but the reality hit in like 2 weeks later. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I had
Mm-hmm.
no clue. And my sport agent like calls me, say, "Hey, do you want to go back?" After I was feeling good, I was like, "Nah,
Good
I
on
think
that.
yeah, I think I'm gonna do something more concrete. But had no clue. Like literally, I didn't know if I wanted to pursue my MBA, take a random job offer. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I did have this one job there when I was kind of just in between, and I went to go play basketball on my lunch break. And I was playing ball with someone I knew. I never knew what he did, and he was asking me how it was, and I was kind of telling him my life story like I'm telling you. And he said, "You need to stop by my office." I said, "For what?" He said, "Just stop by." All right. So a couple of days passed. I stopped by his office, and I walk in. It's State Farm. And okay, State Farm. Okay. So he proceeds to tell me about the opportunity, and here's my story. And he says, "Jermaine, you need to be a State Farm agent one day." And I told him, I said, "Look, man, what a State Farm agent guy? I don't even know what a deductible is. Like, why would I be a State Farm agent?" And he's like, it doesn't matter. Like, something is telling me if you listen to everything I tell you, right, you'll have your own agency one day. And he says, but the first thing you need to do is you need to work in the agent's office first.
Mm-hmm.
Like, learn the game first and then open up your own agency. And he said, "I would hire you, but I can't because I'm full capacity. But there's a young agent who's opening up his office. Go work there, help him reach his numbers, and then listen to me in the background." That's what I did. I helped him reach his numbers. Was never a salesperson. Like, people come to me because they know and trust. I'm not a 1, 2, 3. This is what, like, I just give the truth, honestly. And that's how I was doing when I was there. And I'm like, well, it's time for me to go ahead and do what I need to do. Listen to who I call my mentor now. I call him the Godfather of State Farm, right? Cedric Young, shout out, by the way. That's
Hey, shout out. Yeah.
And so he was the one who kind of just mentored me along the way. And this is going on 14 years later. Now, he did say this, though.
Mm-hmm.
That Jermaine, he said, I don't want anything in return. I remember him saying, he said, "The only thing I want you to do is help somebody else. Just help pay for it." And whether it's helping someone become an entrepreneur or just when you gain knowledge, I need you to give that freely. And me and you had talks already, like all the stuff that we talked about, but whether we move forward or not, that knowledge was given freely. And that's my purpose and passion and what I do right now.
Dope. And how long were you working at an agent under somebody else's office before you launched your own?
2 years.
Was that? 2 years? Okay. Dope.
2 years.
And what was that like, launching your own office? Like, was it, I mean, because again, like you said, you weren't necessarily come from like a business background. So working there 2 years and it's like, all right, it's go time.
Yeah.
What was this, your state of mind at that time?
The mentality is like, most people would say, well, I got to get ready. I got to do this. I got to do that. My belief is that you're never going to be ready for anything, really. I mean, you got to just jump.
True.
And so I was to the point where I was like, I knew I was at a point where I was comfortable in what I was doing, right? Mm-hmm. And what I've learned and what I teach my team, like, you have to get comfortable of being uncomfortable. And so I was comfortable where I was as a team member, right? And I knew I was good at what I did. So now it's time to me to find something that's uncomfortable. So I needed to make that jump. So I was ready in that sense, but ready as far as like knowing what I was doing as an entrepreneur, no.
Yeah.
Right? But I had to learn it, right? And so when I jumped in there, again, I mean, I just leaned on mentors, other business owners to help me kind of like figure it out. And a lot of praying at the same time. But, all those struggles and all those things, I mean, it all works together for the good. I wouldn't take anything back, even from back then, because your first year in business, you're just trying to get it, man. Like, you're trying to, like, State Farm, you have to hit numbers or you're going to get cut. And so I needed to do what I needed to do to sign my permanent contract. Because once you sign a permanent contract, they can never fire you ever again unless you do something stupid like insurance fraud or something like that.
So you have to hit your numbers to have your own office or as an agent? I mean, well, you're still an agent, but help me understand.
Yeah, so they hire you as an agent, right? So like, hey, Jermaine, here's your office, right? But you need to do X, Y, Z, right? Your expectations, right? It's like if you're on a football team, hey, look, you made the squad. Hey, man, but I need you to get 5 touchdowns and yada, yada, yada. Like, you need to at least move this team forward. If you can't do that, then, hey, you're going to get cut, right? And so that's what it was with State Farm. And, even though basketball I thought was going to be something that I was going to do for the rest of my life, right? It still propelled me as far as a direct correlation, right, of sports and business. And so I just took that mentality of, trying to make the teams that I played for, and I just brought it here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're gonna shoot before practice starts. You're gonna stay late. You're gonna put in extra work. That's what I was doing, and I applied that, and I think that's what helped me, become the business owner that I am today.
So just straight up putting your head down and out, out working.
Exactly, exactly.
Got you. Now that's what's up. And let's talk about, because immediately I'm assuming when you launch an office, you have to build a team, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So is this your first time at managing an office and managing a team when you first launched, or have you had other managerial roles? Outside?
Not really. Yeah, not really. I mean, again, it all boils down to sports. You
Yeah.
know, I was a point guard. You see me. I'm not 6'7". Like like most like, oh, you play ball? Like, what you play football? Like, no, I play basketball because I'm so short. They just assume, like, okay, well, I play point guard, right? But point guard, that role is, hey man, you're the quarterback in a sense of like basketball, but you're trying to lead a team.
Right.
And everything that I did in sports, I just kind of just put it into in the real world business. And so when I became in that agent's office, when I was working there for a moment, I mean, naturally, I just became a leader in that office, and then the people he hired, I kind of led, and then it kind of
So
manifested into
so
the.
what is Jermaine's leadership style? I mean, like, and also too, I'm just kind of curious because, um, very humble, but I mean, people do have split personalities when they're in sports or whatever like that. I mean, are you a shit talker on the court? Are
I,
you a little bit more reserved, quiet, just let your game speak for
I
you?
can't,
Like what?
you touch my buttons, we can go there, right? We can go there. But I look at my leadership style like this. My philosophy is this: leaders pull, bosses push, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
And so
Yep.
I never wanted to be a person who gets the best out their employees by yelling, screaming, complaining, and the fear, motivating my fear, right? I just wanted to treat others like I want to be treated, right? So
Mhm.
the leaders, they pull the best out of you. Now, if you look at the greatest coaches, whether it's Phil Jackson or whoever you want to, think about, they pull greatness instead of that fear, right? I even tell try to instill this in my kids, like I don't want to motivate my children by fear. The only way I'm going to motivate them by fear is they're going to lose their life, right? If they're going to cross the street and they can die, then that's going to be a fear motivation that I'm going to instill in them. But I don't want to have, let's say one of my employees, like, if you don't do this, you're going to lose your job, right? I'm
Right.
trying to coach them to make sure they can use the best part of their qualities to help them reach their goals. And that's the
Right.
biggest, like, focus on their strengths. I tell this all the time to my team as far as weaknesses versus strengths, right? We all got weaknesses, right? But I don't need you to focus on your weaknesses. Just like if you were a singer, James, right? And you went to, let's say, you had a vocal coach, right? And they came and, taught you more how to sing. You can probably get 200% better because you know how to sing.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone can't sing and they go to a vocal coach, well, they probably get 5% better, but they're not going to sing like Whitney Houston.
Right.
And so what we try to do is we try to focus on the strengths, right? Understand the weaknesses, like understand it's there, right? But we're not going to focus on that. And that's how I try to lead.
Yeah, I've heard that. Somebody else was talking about that a few episodes ago. And where does that come from? Because is that a philosophy from like a certain type of book or practice, or is it just from sports? Where does that mentality come from? Let's
It's a
focus on us.
it's a combination of both. I mean, I know there's a couple books that I do read. The Psychology of Winning is one.
Hmm.
Talks about a lot of leadership, principles in
Hmm.
there. But it really it's just through life, I
Hmm.
think like things are starting to click a little bit. Like all these little things I used to read, and all these little things that I used to, have to go through. Like the last 5 years, everything is like coming together. Like it was a bits and pieces that didn't fit the puzzle back then, but now it's like, oh, I needed that. Let me bring that over here and put this over here. So it's just leadership from people that like my mentor, people that I see, coaches, motivational speakers, all these things I just try to put together that
Yeah.
works for me in my
Yeah.
style.
No, have you seen that documentary, the Redeem Team?
You know what? I actually started watching it.
Yeah.
A friend of ours was telling me, man, you need to watch it. And so I actually started watching. So I'm kind of like maybe halfway into it. And
Same.
yeah,
Same.
got to the part where Kobe is on the squad now.
Yeah. That's yeah, I walked away a little bit after that, but they're talking about management and how Coach K, of course, is like a phenomenal leader in his leadership style and how he was able to manage all these different personalities and pardon me and get them to work together. So no, I was just wondering about that. Okay. Okay. And so we're tapping into the resources of sports and things we've been a part of, and then also our mentors. And we are up and going at Jermaine Phillips State Farm. And so again, you just said you've been in business for 14 years, and you said about 5 years ago things just started clicking. So
Mhm.
tell me about those first 9.
Yeah. Well, so with the first years, I mean, you had to go through some things, to kind of figure out and understand. I think for me, the biggest thing was that as soon as I stopped comparing really what other people was doing, that's where I started growing. Um, and so, when you're playing sports, you're always competitive. And so there's some bad habits you bring there as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just didn't know how to channel that the first few years. You're always looking at the reports, you're seeing people's numbers, you're saying, well, how are they doing this? How are they doing that? And but half the time, you don't know the struggles that they're having. You don't know like what they had to do, or they may be have numbers, but they may be broke, or how much money they're investing in all these things, right? So I just really just started like honing down, like, hey, what's important to me, right? What can I do within myself, and just focus on my gifts and talents that God provided me. And things for me just started clicking when I stopped like comparing. For me,
How long did it take you to get there?
it took me a while. I would say it took me probably the 5, 6 years into business, right? And even still, it still creeps up, you
Oh
know?
yeah, of
Yeah,
course, of course.
yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Cause no, cause you want to be on top. I mean, I tell my team all the time, like, hey, you don't win silver, you lose gold.
Exactly,
No,
exactly. Yeah, and that is the difficult thing about um, playing sports. And like you're saying, it's hard to turn that off because we're so competitive, and that comparison comes in all the time. But like you're right, we all have to run our own race, and
mm,
like and just stay in your lane. Like you said, it sometimes it creeps in, like especially in this day and age with social media and everything like that. A lot of the stuff is smoke and mirrors. But I mean, you're just seeing everyone's highlight reels, and depending on what you're going on, you could,
yeah,
uh, if feel a certain way. But beyond the point of just running your own race is also genuinely like cheering those people on and flipping it and being happy for them and congratulating them. And like you're saying, like as just kind of giving out that energy, because that's what will be reciprocated to you for the most part. There's still going to be some stuff out there, but yeah, like I said, I genuinely, like to see the wins and
mhm,
and try to learn from them. Like, hey, dope. You know,
yeah.
oh, you closed a small hotel deal. Like, dope. How'd you do that? How'd you go about that? Let's talk about it. So, no, man, that's. I think. I mean, you've already dropped some just life lessons. I know we're talking about insurance, State Farm insurance, but just,
Oh, we are. Oh, okay.
huh?
I said, oh, we are. We here. Oh,
Yeah, no, right. But the things you're saying are just applicable across the board, man. And greatly appreciate you dropping those nuggets. So things started to turn around when you really started to be like, all right, focus on me and what I'm doing and how to improve that. And so, okay, that lights it's on. And then I mean, for us, for outside, people looking in at a State Farm, just high level, I know there's, all these intricacies that go into running a State Farm, but is it just like different things of lead generating to get this book of business, sustainable book of business, and serve these clients? I mean, um, and how difficult is that? I mean, me knowing because I do a certain type of sales. I understand lead generation, all that kind of stuff, and marketing, and and being cognizant of, the most impactful where your dollars are. But um, I mean, what am I trying to ask you? Essentially, I'm just trying to figure out. Tell us, like, high level, how difficult it is, because what I'm starting thinking about is like, man, like, is there any type of like rule about, because you can see a State Farm everywhere.
Mhm.
There's State Farm offices everywhere. It's kind of like how like the subways, they could pitch you
Yeah.
against each other. Like, how difficult is it to get one of these off the ground? Because it's you would kind of think it's like a, if you build it they come, but not necessarily. So
Yeah.
kind of, yeah. So kind of, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, for one, it's not easy. They're not giving these things away like free potato chips. That's for sure.
Okay.
So State Farm, for one, there's more State Farm offices than McDonald's, right? That you see, right? So we're a huge. We are the biggest sales force, out there in the United States. It relates to what we do volume wise, right?
Mhm.
Insurance, State Farm. So I guess this is my State Farm commercial, I guess. But
Hey.
so State Farm is the number one insurance company in the nation. Number one. Okay. Number one and the biggest. Okay. Then you have Geico number two. Okay. You have Progressive number three, and then you have Allstate number four. If you put two, three, and four together, they're still not as big as State Farm combined. Okay.
Ooh, he talking spicy right now. Okay.
So
Okay.
Farm only hires the best. They only hire the best. They only hire the best agents. I only hire the best team members. Right. Last week, right. I mean, I had 45 candidates to shift through to be able to hone down to two that I wanted to get. I mean, it's a very, very competitive. Right. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I'm blessed to be able to be there, to be able to even have a State Farm office. But it's one of those things, right? I mean, like, if you have the qualities though, right? And if someone like my mentor, who told me about State Farm, I mean, it's possible. I mean, it's just, you got to just obviously just be in that lane, because it's not that you have to know anything about insurance, right? Now, as it relates to like opening the office and lead generating, like those are those things you just have to just figure out. But for me, good thing about insurance, it's both a need and a want product, right? There's some that you need it, right? Car insurance is need, right? You need to have it because it's the law. But then there's some products that we have that it's our job to convince people what they they should want it, right?
Mhm.
And people will always move in the directions of their wants, right? Not their needs. And
Right.
I always say this example, right? Like, if it's a hot day in Houston and you just needed some shoes to put on your feet to go check the mail, you're going to buy the cheapest thing possible just so you can go check the mail. But if there's some Jordans or some Louis Vuittons or something that you really want, there's no telling how much you'll pay for it because you want it, right? And so we have a product that is both, right? But what differentiates an average agent between an elite agent is being able to discuss and being able to demonstrate what people want, which they don't even know, right? And so that's where, for me, as an insurance agent, I put sports right back into what I do. So, James, you watch football?
Yes.
Okay. Who's your favorite team?
Don't play with me. The Saints.
The Saints. Okay, I rock with the Saints too. I
No.
rock with a lot of teams. Like, I like players because,
Yeah.
and then I follow the players. But
Yeah.
I
seen you at Thursday night, bro. Don't I seen you? What you got? Season tickets
Man,
over
I,
there?
I do
Yeah.
it. We look, ride or die, and right now it's dying. Right
It's
now it's
dying. Yeah.
but hey, we going for that first round draft pick next year. But I always look at it, insurance, and especially what I do. Think about football, and what I do. You got to look at me like a head football coach.
Okay.
Now, normally with a head football coach, you actually have offensive coordinators that, and a defensive coordinator, right, that they hire, right? Or for me, I'm a head coach, but I'm also an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator. And what I mean by that, on the defensive side, and on defense, just in football, the defensive coordinator is hired so then the other, team won't put points on the board. With me, that's what I do. I try to help people not put points on your board. What I mean by that is if you have bad insurance coverage, if you don't know exactly what you're paying for, if you get in a car accident and there's a lawsuit involved, right? And they can sue you because you don't have the right coverages. Well, guess what? Other teams putting points on the board.
Mm.
Then there's the offensive side. Well, the offensive side for me is financial services. That's, we want to score,
Yeah.
right? But on the flip side, you have to have both at the same time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not what you get is what you keep, right? So the offensive side is financial services, but I'm a little bit different in that regards. So on the offensive side, yes, I'm in financial services, but with a very unique approach. So what I do on the offensive side is help people find money that they're losing unknowingly, unnecessarily, right? And so, James, there's only two ways you can help somebody financially. Only two, okay? One, you can help people find products that potentially pay higher rates of return, which oftentimes can require more risk. Or two, you can help people be more efficient with the resources they already have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have an opportunity to serve, really, when I say serve, to serve my clients by helping them be more efficient rather than tell you what Bitcoin or what stock or whatever to get, right? Just like in football. What football team does reverse flea flickers every single play? No, it's about efficiency, right? First and 10, second and 3, might be third and 4. You may have to punt the ball, right? But the biggest thing is we don't want to have no mistakes. We don't want to have fumbles, right? And that's why I come into play on offense and defense.
Man, and that's why I really appreciate when I came in and sat down with you. A mutual friend of ours, Tayo. Shout out Tayo for the connect. But yeah, I just really sat down just to have a general conversation with us, and it led to another conversation, and then we started to dig deeper. But what I really appreciate from you, because I talk to agents all the time, being a business owner, people are trying to call, hey, let's sit down, let's go grab a coffee, and then it feels like they're trying to sell you something as opposed to trying to understand and actually add value and help you. Mm-hmm. And what I appreciate is just the value that you lead with, but also too, like how you can help the entrepreneur that's just starting out. You can help the seasoned entrepreneur. You can help the person that may be in middle management, or you're helping CEOs. You have a very wide range of people that you talk to and help with, and it's very evident. And then you're able to relate and have a conversation with them very easily, because that's what I appreciate too. Because when I sit down with someone mm-hmm. and you're explaining something to me, like if you can't explain it in very simple terms or where I understand it, like, there's something going on. If I say, hey, I don't understand this, and I'm pointing out something, and you just give me a long-winded conversation, like if you can't explain to me, like essentially like I'm a 3 or 5-year-old, there's an issue, because that means you don't understand it that well. Mm-hmm. And so, and I'm not going to put my money with someone who doesn't understand something very well. So, no, man, I really appreciate that, bro. And I just want to say shout out there and kind of give you your flowers, because for one, it's very evident that you lead with value. And I really do, man, that's a talent, that's a gift, how you are able to relate to people, very easily. And, no matter where they're from or where they are, I see that. And that's definitely a talent, because can't everybody do that. So shout out to you there, sir.
Man, thank you. Thank you, sir.
No doubt. So let's get into these financial services though, man, because essentially that's why I came to you. I was like, oh shit, they getting money over here? I mean, no. So coming out of a startup, and as well, still kind of essentially a startup, this is year 3 for me, as year 5 of the business, year 3 being full-time and really growing my company and starting to kind of get some breathing room. I sat down with you just for some more, just financial advice and see where that could go. Oh man, it's difficult as a man, for one, and then just when you don't know someone to be completely just open up the books and have a complete view of everything. but no, man, it was so helpful. And I definitely appreciate even the accountability calls and texts that you do still, and that lets me know you care. But let's talk about that, because I'm just talking about me, but
Yeah.
it's not about me. But essentially, like, is that common for everyone, just to, as they got, I guess, get more seasoned within the insurance industry, to branch off and start doing financial services, or was that a choice that you made, or how's that go?
Well, financial services with State Farm, I mean, that's part of what we do, right?
Mhm,
But it depends on how much you embrace it,
mhm,
right? I mean, I'm sure even in what you do professionally, there's probably some other things that you have, but I mean, for us, we have 80 products here at State Farm, right? I mean, all the way. I mean, people don't even know we do pet insurance. I mean, so we have so many things that we focus on. For me, finances is so important because these are things that we don't get taught in school, right? About
mhm.
these. And so I want to make sure that I can be a resource, right, to our community to help people learn how money truly works. And we just so happen to have the tools, right? But that doesn't mean that every State Farm agent knows how to use those tools.
Mhm.
So I want to go further my education as a State Farm agent to be able to be a resource. So every State Farm agent that you talk to is not going to have what I have to say, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so that's what sets me apart. I have to differentiate who I am as an individual if I'm going to go in that lane. So yes, we offer all those things, but that doesn't mean every State Farm agent does. And the biggest thing though, James, is I don't like to even say I sell this stuff, right? I mean, I help people acquire it. I give
Right.
you the knowledge, but it's up to you, right? If what you decide to do. And that's what we came with you is what you decide what you want to do. I gave you the information. At the end of the day, you literally could have took that information and you probably could have went anywhere with it, right? So I
Yeah.
appreciate the trust that you bought the products here, but the biggest lesson is that, hey, look, the purpose and passion that was behind every question that I had, everything I'm trying to do to help, it goes back to my mentor of trying to help someone freely, right? And all the accolades or everything that comes, that's the byproduct, right, of all that. I mean, but when you left that day, right, regardless of what you got, like I know the spark in your eye, it was like, man, like that was some good information. And that alone, right, warms my heart whenever I do the things that, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
so that's my purpose in what I do with financial services side. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I just help people acquire it, the things that I have here.
And more specifically, do you mind if we talk a little bit more about whole life
Yeah.
uh, for
Good.
a second? Because it just is, it seems like the younger you are and you find out about these different assets, and it could, would be more advantageous to you. But like, I heard about life insurance, but I heard about, more so like term when I was younger,
Mhm.
if anything. But I mean, you would hear about whole life, but I've heard about some of these horrible whole life policies. But it's like, it's not really discussed, is what I'm saying. It's not really known. And it's kind of crazy, because even amongst, some of the entrepreneurs that, hell, that were in that room, for the masterminds dinner. And it's kind of crazy. But like, once I tapped into that and then started having conversations, it was just like, I don't know why more people aren't having those conversations, because there was like, oh, you're into that? Oh, check out this book. Da, 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 da. But we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
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 And it's so like, I'm wondering, why is that, do you think? Because I mean, you're around this a lot more. Why isn't these things discussed more? Because just, I mean, us as a community, as a,
Mhm.
it's just having those things would be, if more people had these, how powerful we would
Mhm.
be as a, as a community, as a group. And it was so funny. A guy actually reached out to me. He's he's a music manager. He's like in his 20s, and good friend of mine, and he's done some work for me or whatever. And he went on to pursue this thing, and it's hitting for him. He was like, Jay, I got this check, I got my guy signed. He's like, man, I'm looking for some investment stuff. I was like, all right, dope, man. That's cool. That's cool. And it was like, and no knock to what he's doing, but he was like, I want to, sit down and talk to you about. I think Jermaine, he's under 25. He's under
Mm,
25.
wow.
I was like, hey man, I said, I would recommend you looking at some whole life policies. Oh no, man. Oh no. He wrote me off and he was like, I'm putting X amount percentage in Apple and this and that. And I was like, all right, okay, cool. I mean, and Apple may hit for him, but it's just like, for one, why aren't we more of us talking about this? And I guess it's a loaded question. Why aren't we talking about, for one? And then two is like, I guess, how do we connect with younger people? Because like, again, when you're in your 20s, you feel like you're gonna live forever, you're indestructible.
Mhm.
And it's just, it all, like, life insurance is something that, for the masses, I'm not saying everyone, for the masses, is something like, oh, that's something I'll worry about when I'm in my 50s or
Yeah.
60s or something like that.
It's the perception. I mean, life insurance, it's the perception and what it is. People just don't have a good understanding of it. And I always tell people, if what you thought to be true about life insurance turned out not to be true, when would you want to know about it? Right? If what you thought to be true about money turned out not to be true, when would you want to know about it? If you're driving to California, but you're supposed to be going to Florida, when would you want someone to tell you that you're going in the wrong direction?
Right.
Right.
Immediately.
So, and so life insurance is a tool, right? But a lot of people just think it's death benefit, and it's more than it's a whole lot more than that, right? When I tell
Mhm.
you that I help people acquire, right, and I help people understand why they should want it, that's what I mean, right? Because
Mhm.
for a young person, right, yeah, they don't need life insurance. Yeah, I agree with them. You got no kids, yeah, you don't need no life, right? No liabilities, yeah, you don't need life insurance. But let me tell you why you should want it,
Mm.
and I'll break it down on the reasons why. We had this conversation, right? What's the most important business in the world?
Life insurance. Oh,
Nope.
banking. Sorry, banking.
Oh, you might have failed your test already, right?
Right.
the
Wait.
bank, the banks is the most important business in the world.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, but I'm
Use
sorry.
that.
Yeah.
Use that. Yeah,
The
using it.
banking and the banking. Okay. So
Okay.
I was going to question
Yeah,
two.
you're right.
Yeah.
Right. He
Yeah.
said, "Man, this
No.
is my podcast." I ain't.
No. No. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But so the banks is the most important business in the world, right?
Mhm.
But people don't understand where do banks invest the majority of their money.
Right.
So if you look at it, right, people will say, well, they're investing in the stock, investments, and all this kind of stuff, right? If I pull Bank of America's financial reports last year, right, and we look at where they invest their money, last year they invested $3 billion into stock, right? 300 million. Oh, let me take that back. 300 million, okay, into real estate, okay, $3 billion into stock. But the majority of where they invested their money, right, was in life insurance assets
Mm-hmm.
at 21 billion. 300 million, 3 billion, 21 billion. So if you had it going on like a bank, right? Just like any business, you're an entrepreneur, you're doing masterminds, right? For the most part, I'm sure you're getting some gems from all these different business owners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're doing what, but the biggest business in the world is the bank, right? If you can pick the bank's brain, right, you would do what they do. Well, the bank's brain, you can actually look at it. It's FDIC. It's a public website. You can see where they invest their money.
Right.
So most people don't know that banks invest the majority of their money in life insurance, and they don't do it because of rate of return. They do it because of safeties and guarantees, so they can go buy more stock and go buy more real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing that I try to help all ages is that we got to start thinking like a bank. Okay, you can't do what banks tell you to do. We got to do what banks do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's the philosophy. So that's number one. Now look, Bank of America has over 126,000 employees. Okay, if I take maybe 5% of that, right, of those people, right, for this, 20,000, those are people who's making, like, those are the executives of Bank of
Right.
America, right? They're the ones who's making an executive decision to put the majority of money in life insurance, right? Assets. Who's to say they're wrong, right? So it's one of those things where I don't know what you're gonna do, right? But I'm gonna try to model myself like a bank. And so
Right.
that's what I try to teach. So that's number one. That's fundamental, number one, right? People are turned off by things they don't know, right? if naturally, if you don't know something, right, they just dismiss it. And that's kind of a pride type of deal. But the
Yep.
people that they can grow, can take in what they don't know and say, hey, you know what, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Right. And life insurance is one of those things. It's just like people just, they don't know. No one wakes up and says, hey, you know what, I'm gonna make a bad financial decision today.
Right.
Right. And it's not that if you do investments, it's those, stocks or anything is bad, but there's just more efficient way of doing things first before going into those stocks and, buying all these other different products.
Right. And I think that's the key for anyone listening is just the efficiencies, the efficient way to go about your investments. Cause I went to Jermaine and I had to show him like whether it be, you know, put a nickel in crypto, put some nickels in real estate and stocks. And it was never stop any of those things, but let's look about how you're going about doing it and then creating efficiencies to to stop any leaks and to maximize your returns. Now, not only people don't know, but also too, because when I sent that to my guy, he sent me like all these, of course, younger, like these TikToks of people like, would you invest in life insurance? Like, God, no, hell no, blah, 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 blah. People just like swearing, like, why would I ever do that? And there's people that are adamant about not investing in whole life. And what are some of the myths that you know of that why people, like, if we could dispel some of those here on the podcast right now, like why would people, wouldn't do that?
Well, for one, let me back up before we talk about why people wouldn't do it versus why people would. Now, investment stocks and all that, sometimes it's an illusion putting money in those things, right? So, James, and to all your listeners, right? Taxes is the number one threat to your financial future. Okay. I'm gonna say that again like a preacher. Okay. Taxes is the number one threat to your financial future because where your money is going to be way more important than rate of return. Okay. So if you have mutual fund stocks, all this kind of stuff, and it's earning 15% illusion or 17%, rate of return that you think that you're getting, right? It doesn't matter if it's a high taxable environment, right? You may see the statement, you look at it, but when it's all said and done, when you actually need to use the money or get the money or have a distribution phase, right? It's not what you think it's going to be, right? So number one, it is. So the spell with life insurance is totally opposite. It's safe. That's why the banks do it, right? It's better to do it. To dispel what people believe in life insurance, because the top of the top, the rich of the rich, the 1%ers, we talked about this, right? So, if we think about what the top 1% make, right, in America, husband and wife, the moment you can actually realize where people understand about money is you ask that question, right? If someone is saying, well, I don't want to put money in life insurance, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. Ask them, well, what do you think the top 1%, how much husband and wife do they make per year? If they say something like, oh, they make $1 billion, $2 billion, then they don't have the concept of money is a little bit different for them.
Right.
The top 1% in America, right? Top 1% is about $500,000, husband and wife. Okay. And then there's a drop from there to 221, the top 25%, right? Plus, probably all the people on your call are probably in the top 1%, maybe, right? But the thing about it is that if that's uncommon money, right? So some people are in the top 1%, but they don't feel like they're in the top 1% or 10% or 5%. Like, well, I'm making all this money, but they don't feel like that, right? Well, the reason why is because you have uncommon money, but you have common strategies. Nothing wrong with stocks, real estate. I mean, those are very high income generating tools, right, to be able to get there. But there's just certain things that top 1%ers know and do, right, that the rest may not be doing. Me and you had this conversation, right, about athletes, right? If you're an elite athlete, LeBron James, Steph Curry, right? If they wanted to get to the next level for the next season, they just can't do jumping jacks and push-ups to get to the next level, right? They're going to have to do, I don't know, CrossFit. Shout out to Push Fitness. They're going to have to go there, right?
Hey, yeah.
They're going to have to do something that's different to make them go to be a better player, right?
Right.
With your money. if you make uncommon money, you have to have uncommon strategies. And when I say uncommon strategies, that doesn't mean risk. Most people think uncommon. Well, what I got to do? I got to put all my money into this. No, you got to do uncommon things, right? And
Right.
so it's a teaching moment. So if some people just automatically dismiss it, they don't know the truth behind it. And so that's my job, really. My passion is to help people understand the truth. So anytime someone says that, I'll just say, if what you thought to be true turned out not to be true, right? When would you want to know? Well, then come holler at me. We can talk about that.
Man, well said. And I think the only other thing is, and it's just maybe a generational thing. We live in such a microwave society. I mean, we have seen everything from like crypto, like, oh, I made turn a millionaire overnight. I'm a billionaire overnight. I made X amount of million in 6 months.
So true.
And so I think it's understanding, okay, like, hey, you're going down the wrong way. We may need to change your direction and change your strategy, but it's going to take patience.
Mm-hmm.
It takes patience. And I think understanding that is key, because again, like my guy was, wanted to dump all his money in Apple because he's seen these splits and he's seen this and this, and and his horizon is maybe like a 12-month period or something like that. And it's just like, what's not it? I mean, a year's cool, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, truly being patient, understanding all of these different vehicles. I mean, you really don't start reaping the benefit of like real estate sometimes, even though you can get some of the cash back initially. It's like 3 to 5 years, And so yeah, I think that's just another thing, is just like the patience, because like when we sat down, we were talking in like 5-year, 10-year, 20-year increments or whatever like that. And so sometimes we're like, oh man, I got to get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like it's just like, hey, we're putting together a complete strategy, a complete game plan. Just stick to the plan. So yeah, that's all I want to add.
Yeah, and life insurance, again, when I talk about the wants versus needs, if I stack it up against any quote unquote investment, right? The funny thing is, you can't call life insurance an investment. You know why?
Why?
Because you can't lose money in it. That's why you can't call it an investment. So you put money into life insurance, it always goes forward and never goes backwards. Okay. Investments, your money is subject, it can evaporate, right? So that's why technically, even by compliance, I can't call life insurance an investment, right? But again, tools that should reassure some people, because investment is a term that's like, boom, I put money in, I'm gonna make money. Well, what about the losing side of it, right? And so the safety with banks, why they do that is they're putting money in these things, but they're using other people's money, which is life insurance, to be able to go buy other assets by not touching their own money.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing with life. But that goes a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah.
But again, it's just people just don't know.
But let me advance the conversation just a little bit, because I'm really curious, and this was one of the questions. I didn't have many that I had to ask you, but I really wanted to ask you is, what's the definition of a recession? 2 negative GDPs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so 2 quarters of negative GDP, pardon me. And so people are, oh, recession's coming, recession's here, technically.
Yeah, that's true.
So with that being said, as a financial advisor, does your strategies or anything from what you're telling someone, or how when people come to you and talking to you about different things, does that change at all because of the environment we're currently in?
Well, it does, in a sense that it's more urgency in what I do. My defensive coordinator starts to come into play too. Right? We don't want you to lose any money, right? So in this environment, right, inflation is eroding money.
Right.
And so, yeah, life insurance is one, but to put it in a safe place to protect it and grow it at the same time. But there's other products you and I haven't even talked about, right, that can help grow it in this environment. I have tons of clients who are pulling money out their 401ks and putting into safer places, right?
Makes sense right now.
You hear about annuities, you hear about all these things, but that doesn't change the way. My thing is, it heightens my awareness to make sure that I can help people not lose more money.
Right.
People bailing out.
And sorry to cut you off there, because that's a key thing, because you just talked about 401ks, and I'm assuming I'm not as knowledgeable about the things that, have all the knowledge that you have, and privy to all the different strategies. But I'm assuming with the 401k, that strategy would change depending on, for one, your goals, where you're at in life, your age, and all those different things. So that really leads into another question I have is, for one, it was like, hey, does that message change when you're talking to people? And does that message change amongst like being a 21-year-old, or 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old? Because yeah, if you have a nice lump sum of your retirement in a 401k right now, before it erodes anymore, you might want to get it the hell out of there and put it into something else, because we've seen the erosion within the stock markets probably over the last, I don't know how many months. So it's been nasty. So, and is that the case? I'm sorry, I get really giddy when we start talking about this kind of stuff, but yeah, it's just like, all right, so if they've seen like 10 to 12% erosion on their 401k, is it, but their goal is to retire within, he was trying to retire in the next 16 months.
Mm-hmm.
Is it keep it there? I mean, and try to hit an upswing, or is it like pull it out, put it into something a little bit more safe to where it really stops the bleeding,
Mm-hmm.
or, and say like, hey, maybe you move your retirement window from the 16 months to maybe 3 to 5 years. I mean, like what? I'm just kind of curious, like those conversations, you're probably having some of those, and how does that go? Because those are difficult calls. I mean, it's essentially, you're probably just giving different scenarios and letting people make their decision. But yeah,
but it's really not that complicated.
mm-hmm.
James, if you had a leaky pipe in your house, when would you want to stop the leaking?
Right. I mean, you want it to stop immediately. I mean, but
if there is a leak, right, you want to be able to fix the leak. Right. So regardless if it's going to be reallocating, you may have to change your risk tolerance. So there may be someone who's 22, right? There may be someone who's about to retire in 16 months. So those things we want to protect as best as we can, either way, right, from further damage.
Right.
So the biggest thing, it really boils down to what that client wants. So I have a series of questions, right? Because not everything all leads to life insurance, right? But majority, after hearing what it does, most people say it's a no-brainer, right? But there are some clients, because I have a Series 6 and 65, right? I have all these different licenses that's in the stock market, mutual funds, all these different things that we do, right? But it boils down on what that person wants at the end of the day, right? But also understanding if the other side of it too, right? So someone who's young, James, right? It's called a risk tolerance. There's going to be questions to say, hey, look, how much are you willing to lose right now? Do you want to lose this? And then it's basically just making sure the right product is in place. But a lot of people and professionals in financial services, they're focusing on the product they want, right? That's it. It's all about the money, right? Whereas life insurance, yeah, it's a good tool, right? But if that's not what you want to do and you're in a different place, right, then yeah, there's other things. But my goal is to help people understand the consequences, right, and the benefits at the same time. And most of the time, maybe it's just in that little age group that I deal with, they understand they want to preserve and they want to accumulate wealth at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. And so it really just depends. In this environment right now, I have tons of clients, right, who are pulling money out, right, and they're putting it into a safe place.
Sorry, out of?
After 401ks, their IRAs, traditional IRAs, all these different qualified plans. So qualified plans, all that means is, hey, look, the government can touch it, right? Mm-hmm. And so not only the government can touch it, right? It's, if you had a Lamborghini, right, where would you park that Lamborghini? Most people will park it in the garage, free of rain, sleet, snow, right? Well, people right now have their Lamborghini, which is their money, on the street. And it's raining right now. Like, yo, yeah, at least gonna put it in the garage. You may not wash it, but let's put it in the garage at least.
Right.
You know? So it's just really at the end of the day, right? People are like, well, I'm just gonna keep it. Well, if you're cool with losing, I mean, you think it's gonna bounce back? I mean, potentially it can, but for me, I just help you see both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm not gonna talk about the numbers, but there's a individual last week that took a lot of money out and we're putting it into a safe bucket.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Dope. 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 Nah, man. That's always fascinating to me, especially in times like this. Because I mean, when the market was hot, like just the economy in general was fairly decent one. Like not even how long ago? Maybe like what, like 9, 10 months ago. Still, it was kind of slowing down, but like a year ago, everything, everyone looked like a winner. If you were in
Yeah.
crypto, you looked like a winner. If you had just in stocks, it looked like a winner. Like everyone, you could not make a bad decision. Real estate,
Mhm.
everything. I mean, like money was cheap, and it was just everything was green light. And then now it's just like, it's not the case, and you really have to start thinking about these strategies. And so, nah, man, that's fascinating, bro. The other question, just randomly, I guess just as a business owner, a father, uh, financial advisor, all these different things, just is really random and very broad. It's no specific topic. It's just what would you give? What advice would you tell someone, 18 years old about, as they, you know, graduate, look at the future, and pursue whatever in life? And this is very broad. I'm talking about, what would you give them? Any type of advice would you give them financially, in life in general, relationship wise? I mean, just what are those things? I mean, particularly, I guess if you're talking to yourself, let's hone it down to, like, if you're talking to yourself, what kind of advice would you give yourself at 18?
Well, for one, save money, right?
Yeah,
And so
right.
just a golden rule about saving money is that if you're not at least, okay, saving at least what the government takes out in your check, you're already behind schedule.
Mhm.
Okay, so it doesn't matter what percentage I don't care where you are, whether you're making $1 million a year, or you're making $20,000 a year, right? If the government is taking some money out, you need to save at least that amount, because
Yeah.
people, I mean, there's no magic bullet when it comes to savings. And now saving in what, that doesn't matter, right? But you got to save at the end of the day, and that's all the young people that I even speak to. The biggest thing is they want to see the cars, they want to see the houses, they want to do this, they want to do that. But fundamentally, like, you got to save, right?
Mhm.
Life lesson, right? I always tell, and even my team, but even just people in general, right? Do more than what's expected, right? If you do
Mm.
what's more than expected of you, then you have everything in life,
Hmm.
right? So that's what I tell my team, right? If someone's on the call, if you're speaking to someone and they just, the expectations, oh, he's going to take care of my call or take care of this. If you do more than what's expected, right, you'll have more business, right? You have more fulfillment, right? If you go to church and that's the only thing you do is go to church, that's it. But if you do more than is expected to just go to church, if you're going to be a father and not just be a father, but do more than is expected to be a father, you would have everything that you want in life. And it doesn't always boil down to money, right? But if you put those principles in the financial world too, you're going to get that as well, right? So
Mm.
that's just a philosophy from me that I've always, tried to instill in my kids, even though they're young, but was instilled in me when I was younger, just to do more than what people expect of you.
Dope. Dope,
Yeah.
man. Those are some gems, man. Nah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Man, it's just so awesome to have the chance to get to know you, man, and be like have these conversations with you, and just the knowledge, the passion that you speak with, the value that you lead with is super dope, man. It's always just it's just some people you would just want to be around because they're good vibes. So, man, I definitely appreciate you for that. Man, with so much going on, I see these trophies in the background and stuff. Like, what is next for Jermaine Phillips and the Phillips Agency? What's next, man?
And we're just trying to be better. I mean, at the end of the day, every single day, we're just trying to be a better version of ourselves, right? I got a team, got a young team. I mean, I got people from 35 to 22 in my office, right? And although I would love for them to be working in my office until old and gray, right? The reality is people had to move on and do the things to pursue what they want in life, right? And so everything that I tell them, right, in this office is like, look, if you're not a better person, right, by the time you leave this office and whatever endeavor that you decide to do, then I didn't do my job as being a leader, right? And so what's next for this office is we're just trying to get better in the things that we do. The processes have to get better. The things how we do, how we treat our clients. Yes, we have accolades and awards, but that don't mean nothing, right? If a client is not happy for some reason, right, then those things don't mean nothing, right? And so that again, yeah, that's good to have those things, right? But we just have to make sure that we become a better version of this agency in ourselves every single day.
Dope, dope. No, and just the environment and seeing how you guys go about your business, I have, no doubt that you guys are, moving towards that. And just from a business perspective, I mean, we are in Q4, I guess. What does that look like from a personal and a business perspective of you planning towards 2023? Like how do you go about and approach that planning?
So I actually want to end my year, right, January to October. Like October 31st, we want to be done. So, and what we did, we hit our goals, right? We're right there. So now we're just focusing November and December of 2023, right? And so right now we're doing a lot of planning as that relates. So I'm getting everything, new goals, things that we need to do to stretch the team. So I'm preparing that. So we'll have a planning meeting at my office and talk about 2023. And we're just building. I'm not recreating the wheel. I'm just adding some things that we can stretch on, right? I had an exercise I had with my team, and they were in my office, and I told everyone to raise their hand as high as they can raise it. And they all, raised their hands. And I said, raise it a little bit higher, right? And they raised a little bit higher. I'm like, well, I asked you the first time, can you raise your hand as high as you can go, right? Yeah. This is what I need in 2023. So it's a couple things like that. We have some things that we need to stretch for, because at the end of the day, it's not going to make them better. And one thing I forgot to say about as far as business aspirations, and you keep this lifted in prayer, where hopefully in 2020, late 2023, 24, I'm gonna put my hat in to get in a second office.
Let's get it.
Yeah, so that's my aspirations. But regardless if that happens or not, if God plans that, to be ordered, that's cool. But if not, I'm already having the team set in place. So I have a team right now I've already hired, right? And so we're actually have the capacity of 2 offices in one right now. So kind of speaking into existence, right? Taking a chance, not knowing how this is going to work out, right? Like literally, like I just did payroll last week, and I was like, Lord, like, whew, man, what did I just do here, right?
Right.
But the team knows that. The team knows that they have to, reach their goals, right? And then just really when the time happens and I open up a second office, I'm just whoever's in this office, half of them are just going to that new one. So just kind of just making it work before it even happens, man. So that's what's in the tunnel right now.
And just curious, how do you keep your team motivated, man? And how do you, because again, there is any office culture that's intentional, whether it be bad or good, it's, that's intentional. And particularly good culture is intentional. And so great environment, great team, motivated, and like it's really it truly appears to be a team, but that's like comes with motivation, like individual and then as a collective. How do you do that? How do you go about that?
Well, one, man, energy transfers, man. And so the biggest thing for my office is we want to make sure we have good energy.
Yeah.
So everyone comes in, like the people I hire, they do personality tests. I'm making sure they're the right personality, but not only that, when we do personality tests, everyone knows everyone else's personality, right? Mm-hmm. Because some people may be high strung, some people may be analytic, right? So if you don't know how that person reacts, right, when good things happen or bad things happen, then that's where the clash can happen, right? I want to make sure it's fun in the office. So we have a lot of fun. I have my girl who sits in front. I call her DJ Push Button. So she's the one who sets the mood for the music. So she, creates a tempo and all that kind of stuff. What kind of music we're going to play and all that kind of stuff.
I love it.
We have weekly promotions. I have every week where they hit certain numbers, right? They get days off. They get all kind of things. But at the end of the day, James, it's based it on what they want, right? Anything that as far as good energy, right, it's based on the team. So
Hmm.
we sit around and say, hey, what do you guys want? What's more important, right? Y'all want accolades, y'all want money, y'all want time off, right? A lot of people actually want time off. But from an entrepreneur standpoint, right, you would think it would be more money. So you just like, okay, here goes, weekly cash, right? And that's not really what drives them and motivates them. Some people have 3 kids, they want to be home with their children, they want to get off the bus with it, all these little things. But from a leadership standpoint, you have to know your team, right?
Hmm.
So when they come on board, I have a full like questionnaire about who they are, what they like, and all this kind of stuff. Day one, the things that they like, I got a little goodie bag, right? All the things they say what food they like, this one of my new hires, like what flower she likes, where she likes to eat, and all this kind of stuff. So day one, I set the tone. Day one for her, when she came in, she had a little goodie bag with all her favorite stuff, and she was almost in tears, like, oh my God, like no one has ever done this for me. And I just told her, look, this is what I do. I care about you as an individual, as a person, right? And that's just going to make them work harder for you, right? You have to have buy-in. If they don't have buy-in,
Such a key word. Yes, sir.
it's not going to work.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
weekly meetings, they probably get tired of me. With like, oh, I'm Jermaine with another meeting, right? But then I have individual meetings every Friday. I have individual meetings with my team as well, just to see where they are. Any questions? Can we talk things through, right? Where's your goals? We write down our goals, right? So any goals that they have, we write it down, because if it's not written down,
Everyone in your staff,
yep,
everyone.
yep, they have written goals. It's called a SMART goal.
Okay. No, I'm saying you meet with everyone.
Oh yeah, meet with everyone. Yeah, yeah, meet with everyone. Yeah,
You scaling, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's going to get to the point now where I'm structuring now where I'm putting people in leadership positions as well,
Yeah.
and that has helped tremendously, right? So
That's
now,
another motivator.
yeah, sales manager, office manager, then have a team lead, and the team leader has people behind them. We have team meetings, they have responsibility. So empowerment is key, man.
That's dope, bro. And I love to hear it, man. And I'm really excited to where the Phillips agency is headed, man. 2 more questions, because I know I promised to get us out of here within an hour. But like I said, like I said, talking to you is just, it just flows easily, and we just start talking about everything. And I'm like, oh, what about this? What about that? But man, I'm really interested, because I am a firm believer that success leaves clues. And what about that, I'm always interested to see how entrepreneurs, high performers navigate their 24 hours. I'm
Mm-hmm.
really fascinated about that. Just kind of see, like, I just actually posted something the other day. Kobe was talking about, he's like, all right, it was a TED talk. He was like, let's say in summertime you're training, you get up and you train from 10 to 12, you rest, and
Mm-hmm.
then you train from 4 to 6, and then you do that over and over again. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, but let's say I get up at 4 o'clock, I train from 6 to 8, take some time off, I'm back at it 10 to 12, and then take some more time off. And then he's like, if I can get in 4 to year 2 every day, he's like, a couple of years of that, there's no training, whatever you could do, you're never going to be able to catch me. So I'm just really interested. We all just can't lock in
Mm-hmm.
like that, for whatever reason. You could, but it comes with a certain sacrifice, whatever you want to pay. But I'm just always interested to hear about how entrepreneurs navigate today. And we know, especially with insurance, no day is alike. Yeah, I was part of calling you for one of those no days alike last weekend. But how does Jermaine navigate his 24? Are you up early? Do you subscribe to some type of just routine regimen where you block out for yourself? And like, can you like walk us through, like, how do you navigate your 24?
Routine is important. I mean, it's important to me, right? And so, obviously, when I wake up in the morning, I try not to watch the news, right, or look at social media. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I go to my devotionals. I have 2 devotionals that I read first thing in the morning.
Which
Okay.
ones are they?
So Jesus Calling is one, Jesus Listens is the other. And every single morning I read that, and I try to see how God is speaking to me that day, right? And in my prayer, that I have really every single morning is like, God, live through me, talk through me, love through me today, right? I want you to work through me, because I told you I didn't know anything about insurance, right? Everything that I do, like, he's working through me. So I want to make sure I'm setting a good example of what I do, because entrepreneurship is hard, right? It's very, very difficult, right? And so, like, I need that dependency on him, right? So, I tell my team the same thing too, but you have to watch the right things, read the right things, right? You can't lead if you don't read, okay? And so that's some of the things that I do. So every single morning is, devotional, right? That time, and it doesn't have to be this long drawn, it's put yourself in the right mindset. I read the devotional, boom, it's like a daily devotional, the date, okay, how does this apply to me today? And then I try to share that information, right? Immediately when I see it, I have a group text message with my fellas, boom, I send it, right? And then I highlight a whole bunch of things on there. And then most of the time I tell people, like, I'm sending you this stuff, not just to give it to you because I think you should need it. Like, I'm ministering to myself half the time when I'm sending stuff to you, because that's what I'm dealing with at the same time. So that's my routine in the morning time. Now, as far as routine, when I get here, right, like anybody, like most entrepreneurs, I hope, like I tell my team, like, let me get settled. Can I load my laptop first before you start, throwing all the arrows at me the day, right? So I get kind of a debriefing from my office manager, kind of tell me what's going on for the day, and then I go attack, right? Where our goals, what we need to do. And I obviously have my weekly agenda, right? Go home, right? Leave, home is home. Got to separate the two, right? So when you get to the house, right? I don't care what the day feels like. You got to leave it at the office. You got to just leave it in the car. You got to do something, because you can't bring that energy back at the crib, right? It's just not good for a relationship. It's not good for your kids, right? So you got to separate it. That's difficult though, right? Because those bad days, you come home and, I'm not saying I do it every single time, but you bring that home with you. And so those are things I try to work on. Just separating the work-life balance type of deal, right? And asking questions to my wife, how did her day go, right? How did things go with you? Tell me about your day type of stuff, intentionally trying to do that stuff. Whether I get it back or not, it's not important. It's what I'm trying to do to make sure that she's good.
And how do you navigate, because being in the service industry, like you already told me, is like, James, I wish insurance happened between 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Like, how do you do that? Talking about going home, shutting it off, and being like, ideally, yeah, we all want that. But like you're saying, like, you may have a client that's, like I said, looking to retire within the next 6 to 12 months and, calling you about all these things. Like, how do you navigate and manage that within your relationship? Because I've been on the phone where my wife is like, looking at me crazy. My wife's a realtor and I'm looking at her like, yo, we trying to watch a movie and all that kind of stuff. It's just the nature of the beast. So yeah. How do you navigate that? Or the kids want to play with you or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's certain times, right? And I do have my business cell phone and I have my personal cell phone there. They do call, right? And if I'm in the moment, right? I'm not going to put the business over my family, right? Like if it's in the moment, like if I'm watching a movie or I'm, doing something. But most of the time, there's certain people who call, like if it's like I know, I just know, hey, I got to pick up this because this person doesn't really call me like this, right? Most of the time, I don't deliberately put people to voicemail, but in those moments, right, if I'm there, I try to actually don't put my cell phone next to me. And if it's important, that person will leave a voice message, right? Then naturally you will call back when you get a window, right? So I still try to make sure if I get a message or if I don't, I text the person back or I call as soon as I'm available to do it. And me and my wife have an understanding too. My wife, so she's a managing director. She's big time, right? For Accenture. So she's doing some big things too. So it goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
We have to respect that because at the end of the day, right, we do all this stuff so we can have things for our children, right? And so that boils down to that. But ideally, at the end of the day, right, with me and my wife, we just have a good understanding, right, of who we are and what we're trying to do. Our communication there sets the tone of how we deal with business. She understands, like, hey, it's insurance, okay, you need to call that person back, right? but I'm not going to do it when it's important moments like that, and feel that you shouldn't be picking up the phone. Right.
Right. No, man, well said. Well said. For sure, for sure. Man, Jay, man, I appreciate it, bro. This has been good, man. So the last question I like to ask everyone as we in these conversations is, when it's all said and done, what does Jermaine Phillips want to be remembered for?
God fearing. End of the day. I mean, God fearing, a God fearing man who just wanted to give. Right. I okay. So when you called me last week, I was actually at my college teammate's funeral.
Yeah.
Right. Whenever you go to a funeral, you think about, well, what's your funeral gonna feel like? What is it going to be like? You who's gonna talk for you and all these things, right? And I just want my life to be an example of like, hey, look, it's not about how many people come to my funeral, right? But how many people did I impact, right? How many people can come and say, hey, look, he helped me, do this, do that. And it's not all about finances or whatever the case may be. It boils down, right? That, hey, look, was I, trying to help that person be the better version of themselves? Did they feel that, right? And that's the biggest thing, the impact. I'm a helping person, like by heart. I want to see other people win, right? So the biggest thing that I want to be remembered by, obviously, is like, hey, look, that giver's gain. Like Jermaine, wanted to give freely. Anything that he wanted, he would, give the shirt off his back type of mentality, right? But also too, he was God fearing. Like, if I don't want this to be my death speech or anything, but like,
No.
they know, right? If something happens to me, they know that I'll be good in heaven, type of deal.
Dope, man. Again, bro, I appreciate you giving time to this podcast and and joining me on this platform, bro. No, man, I'm really excited to see what's in store for you, your agency, your family. And so, no, man, I really do truly appreciate your time and appreciate this talk. You've dropped not only a lot of insurance gems, you've dropped, just some, some life things and life perspective and some thoughts that entrepreneurs are, wherever you're at in life that, could be applicable. So greatly appreciate you there. So if someone is wanting to get in touch with you, Jermaine, to talk maybe financial services, or sit down and talk with you about that, or just talk about insurance and have you look over current policies and where they could potentially stop some leaks, how can they reach out to you and your team?
Yeah, well, they can always call my office, right? So my office phone number is 281-759-2558, right?
Okay.
Team does pick up because they pick up first, right? They say from the masterminds, whoever the case may be, right? And they come from James, they look, I'm making sure I'm calling that person back because, if it comes from you, right, then hey, man, that's VIP treatment right there, right? So there, obviously, my email address is callme@agentphillips.com. So
Okay.
CALLME @agentphillips.com. If you want to just set up a time to be able to talk about some stuff, we can communicate that way and communicate that, and that we can set something up.
Cool. Yeah. And all that information will be put into the details description of this particular episode. If someone's wanting to tap in with you on your social media, I guess the Phillips agency is yeah. Okay. So yeah, we'll actually put that, pardon me, at the bottom here of this particular episode. So nah, man, is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about?
I mean, just to give you your flowers too, man. I mean, look, I feel honored. I'm number 20. Okay, okay. So, but no, for real, I appreciate all that you're doing, man. Just from the time that I met you, you for one been a gentleman, and then also been open, man. Like, it's hard to talk about some of the stuff that you and I have talked about, right? But again, it's almost like you got to get financially naked on some stuff, and so for you to go into the details that you did, right? I really appreciate that. And then just what you're doing from the mastermind dinner that you did. I mean, man, that thing was off the chain, right? Classy, like as it can be, man. So you did your thing on that. And then I just hope this thing, I mean, you're already doing it already, right? I just hope that it continues to grow and prosper and just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, man, because you're doing your thing. This will come back, whether it's financially, right, or just peace of mind. Something's going to come back from this, and I just commend all the things that you're doing for entrepreneurs. Good stuff, man.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah. And just like you is, just every day talking to the Lord, use me. I'm a, servant of your kingdom. And so however you can use me, Lord, just, please do so. So no, I definitely appreciate that. And just like you said, just I've learned leading with value. So yeah, there are some dope things. Granted, you were, in at the dinner. However, we do have for all of the alumni who have done the actual episodes, we have a Slack channel. So as soon as we get off of here, I'm going to add you to that. And that whole Slack channel is a Slack, Slack app where we talk about all kinds of stuff. So it's, just exclusive to, people have done the podcast. So I'm really excited there. And we do have some exciting stuff up. I've already got the next one, bigger and better, planned. The event for potentially the spring. So we're still kind of kicking that around. So more about you. No, man, brother, I really appreciate you again. This has been great. Jermaine, I definitely appreciate your time because I know you are a busy person. So to sit down for a little over an hour and offer your undivided attention is greatly appreciated. So thank you, sir, on that. So yeah, guys, this has been another episode of Masterminds. Please tune in weekly for new episodes where we're just kind of talking to different entrepreneurs and, dropping gems and kicking games. So we greatly appreciate you guys for tuning in. So until next time, peace.